You might be wondering, how did a small country like Norway, a nation once known for its fishing villages, manage to become so wealthy? Today, we're going to look into it. Well, let's find out. Norway is majorly ranked as the world's most democratic nation, and it consistently scores high in terms of happiness and quality of life surveys. Most countries have tried to do what Norway has done, but most of them ended up even more impoverished than before. So, how exactly did Norway become so rich? The answer lies in its natural resources, but of course, there are many other factors to consider. To be frank, Norway initially relied on other Scandinavian countries, but even with that, Norway's economy was in ruins and famines. It drove so many families into seeking a new life in the United States. But then again, fast forward to today, Norway is becoming the richest country on earth. The Sovereign Wealth Fund from Norway is one of the world's most important investment vehicles. The nation has a huge amount of landmass, coastline and waters, but with a relatively small population. Since it's a big country with a small population, this combination means that there is a lot of money earned by the land and the ocean, which is a lot. Like a lot further than you might even imagine. The country has received great support from nature. What do I mean? The country is blessed with natural resources. Due to the cold waters all around the country, for centuries, nature has provided it with rich fishing opportunities, and this continues even to this day. Although you might perceive it as a country known for its tourism, the fishing industry still plays a critical part in the local economy. As you must have guessed, water has been a fundamental aid in the majority of Norway's domestic power supply. Even before oil was discovered, Norway used the natural power in its rivers and seas. Till today, the hydropower still supplies most of Norway's power needs. However, even with the cold winters and hydropower, agriculture too has always played an important role in Norway's growth. But then again, the country's fortunes changed significantly when there was a new discovery of another valuable resource moving underneath the water. What's the resource? In the late 1950s, few people in the nation barely believed that the Norwegian continental shelf, which is the ocean bed off the Norwegian coast, might be rich in deposits of oil and gas. It wasn't until when the discovery of gas in the Netherlands persuaded some Norwegians to look again at the North Sea. The first petrol was Phillips Petroleum, and they were the first movers. They sent in an application to the Norwegian authorities in 1962, seeking the permission to explore the North Sea. It was at this moment that the Norwegian government decided to claim sovereignty of large offshore areas, but they still awarded licenses to conduct seismic surveys to private companies. Despite some major issues, the industry took off in 1969 with the groundbreaking discovery of what we know today as the Ekofisk field. The Norwegian government gradually released licenses, but most of them were mainly to international companies, but not until the formation of Statoil in 1972, which gave the state a direct interest. Statoil is still in works till today, although they are now known as Equinor. Over the last 50 years, petrol activities in the Norway continental shelf have made a significant impact on the country's economic growth and also financed much of the welfare state. According to figures, the industry has created values of over 12 billion Norwegian kroner in current terms. At the moment, the country's website says that the oil and gas sector accounts for approximately 23% of Norway's value creation, which is more than twice of that of the manufacturing industry. You may wonder, while the discovery of oil was purely one of chance, how did Norway manage and use the funds generated by the industry? Most countries with significant oil and gas reserves have wasted the cash. A typical example is Venezuela. It is a relatively poor country by Western standards, despite it having the largest oil reserve in the world. So, what exactly did Norway do different? First, the government knew it needed the expertise of foreign countries to exploit the oil and gas reserves. But then again, while foreign companies rushed into Venezuela to profit handsomely and return little to the nation, Norway took another path. The country's political power was already majorly distributed, and this made it impossible for a single person or group to get extra gains at the expense of the society. So, the Norwegian government decided to make decisions based on the needs of the nation. Just as they did with hydropower companies, the government made the decision that the natural resources belonged to the people. This made the oil and gas production a profitable activity, not just for one person, but for the state. The government further created a public oil company, Statoil, which studied and replicated foreign companies with the mindset of taking over in the long term. They didn't stop there. The country also invested heavily in petroleum processing infrastructure and the education of engineers, and it chose long-term stability over short-term fame. But things were not all that perfect. As the oil industry grew, cost of living rose. Norwegians found themselves losing too much money. As soon as the government stepped in, the 1980s oil price dropped and the nation saw a recession with its economic growth stuttered. In other words, Norway didn't squander its money, but it just needed a better plan, which is why the government pension fund Global was created. With this fund, the surplus wealth produced by Norwegian petroleum income was easily deposited and invested. The money came from mostly taxes on operating companies, exploration license fees, dividends from the partly state-owned Statoil, now known as Equinor, and profits from the state's direct financial interest in some fields. But here's the cool part. Norway just didn't blow all that money. They were smart about it. Instead of spending it all right away, they saved a lot of their oil money in this fund for the future. The government fund was established in 1990 to cover the effects of the early expectation on the decline in income, and to also aid in the disruptive effects of fluctuating oil prices. Money gotten from the fund was expected to significantly fall over the coming years, so the focus was on how the money is being invested, and it became national concern. Given the size of the fund, the value fluctuated greatly on a daily basis. The majority of the fund's assets are held in equity investments, some in fixed income investments, with a relatively small holding in real estate. According to the Norges Bank Investment Management, the government pension fund Global is saving for future generations in Norway. One day, the oil will run out, but the return on the fund will continue to benefit the Norwegian population. The Norwegian government still invests this fund in stocks, bonds, and other industries all over the world. This means that even when the oil runs out, Norway will still have money coming in from these investments. It's like having a giant piggy bank that keeps growing. As you can see, Norway has a significant welfare state, funded in part by oil revenues. How is this money utilised? While other Scandinavian nations have seen the need to reduce their social spending, Norway used the interest earned by the fund to aid its annual budget on things like healthcare, education, and welfare. Most persons believe that Norway has a high standard of living. People in Norway have access to excellent healthcare, education, and social welfare programs. This means they can focus on their jobs and be productive, which helps the economy grow. At the moment, Norwegians still pay high income taxes, but they rarely need to worry about paying huge medical bills or electricity bills. You could say that Norway struck it lucky, but without smart long-term thinking from the nation's previous governments, it would have squandered its oil and gas riches. That's the same long-term thinking still taking place today. Norway is not scared of the future of the oil and gas industry. They have top-notch universities and research centres, which helps them stay ahead in fields like technology and renewable energy. This keeps their economy diverse and resilient. The nation is constantly investing heavily in sustainable technologies, such as offshore wind power, in the hope of securing a major new industry. So, there you have it. Norway is becoming the world's richest country because of its natural resources, smart management of money, high standard of living, and investments in innovation and education. It's proof that with the right strategies, even a small country can become a global powerhouse. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.